G'day guys. So having talked about aggregate supply, obviously the next step is to talk about aggregate demand. So we'll introduce the aggregate demand curve, and then we'll show how equilibrium GDP can be shown in terms of aggregate supply and demand. So getting into definitions again, previously we looked at the quantity of real GDP supplied, which was the market value of final goods and services that firms planned to produce. Now we look at the quantity of real GDP demanded, which is the same thing except instead of it being what firms plan to produce, it's what households plan to buy. And aggregate demand is the relationship between this and the price level. So if we go back to this equation again, we said that real GDP supplied was given on the left side of this equation. Real GDP demanded is of course given by the right side. So our aggregate demand comes from consumption, investment, government spending, and net exports. Now, one important thing to note here is that we do not differentiate between short run and long run aggregate demand. We just have a single aggregate demand curve, because it isn't dependent on those factor costs that are constant in the short run and variable in the long run. So we don't need to have two aggregate demand curves. Unsurprisingly, the aggregate demand curve is a downward sloping curve. As the price level increases, there is a lower real GDP demanded and